For people who have not heard the first 8 parts, I'm not going to review the first 8 parts, so please bear with me. This is the final part of a very unusual spiritual awakening, part 9 of 9, and it's basically what I believe, based upon all the strangeness that's happened in my life, especially since the awakening in 79 and the seed movement in 78. First of all, I want to tell you that I know me better than anybody else on this planet knows me, and there's no way that I believe that I am the only Son of God. So clear that up right off the bat. The only Son of God, I might point out, I'm not. Now, what I wrote back in 1980 in the summer, when I came back to Vermont for the second time after I'd written the biography in 79, went back California and came back out to Vermont in the summer of 80. Well, I wrote in part this one little quote that is the beginning of what I currently believe, just the seed of what I currently believe. I wrote back in 80, quote, "I believe that we must learn the difference between good and evil, and that is why God lets all of us go through this. Every day, one new soul is born. The day is 6,000 years long. This is my day." That was the beginning of my current theory. That was way back in 1980, near the beginning of the strangeness. Well, I think instead of about good and evil and God, it's more about love and communication, and it's a graduation process that every soul goes through in a separate history of mankind. 6,000 years of work, 1,000 years of R&R for every single soul that is ever created. And I believe aliens have instituted this program simply because of the manner in which I was exposed to the Roswell incident, which I'll go into a little bit later. In a history of mankind, we start off, if we're a male, we start off as Adam. If we're a female going through the process, we start off as Eve, and she becomes the central character. A male, Adam is the central character. So it depends on whether you're male or female when you start off. Reincarnation is a crucial part. You go through lifetime after lifetime, until the big one comes up 2,000 years before the last one. That being Jesus at the first coming. When you are born as Jesus, you are the perfect embodiment of love on this planet. And when you die, you keep coming back with amnesia into a world that goes further and further away from what you spoke about 2,000 years ago, what you taught, until you are born as Christ at the second coming, which is CHRIST adds up to 32, the freezing point of water. You are a frozen Christ. You are the water of wisdom that is frozen, the baptismal water that is frozen. There's 144,000 former graduates at all times on planet Earth. And they may even be babies right now that are former graduates. That number is constant. They've all had their separate history to go through. Their 7,000 year period, 6,000 of work, 1,000 R&R. And they're here to teach the current graduate, and in this case me, about love, how to love. That's the whole purpose. The biggest problem in this world is a lack of love and a lack of communication, and that's what we're here to learn. And we all get to do it. We all go through it. The former graduates are really teachers And the one who is supposed to be the teacher, Christ, is really the student. He's the follower. He's following the ones that have already gone through it. Now, why do you have to be Jesus and then Christ? Why not the other way around? Because when you're here as Jesus, you know what love is. You have that as part of your soul, the perfection of love. And you lose it. You lose it. And now you know what you need, what you're looking for inside. Even though you don't consciously know, subconsciously you know what you need. You need to get back to where you were 2,000 years ago. That's why it's that way. Now, as far as planets go, the universe is infinite. It's ever expanding. And planets just keep being born. So there's no time constraint. 7,000 years for one person. Obviously, you cannot have a whole bunch of 7,000 year periods on one planet because planets expire. They only have a certain number of years before they're kaput. So you use another planet. That's where it starts. It starts with another planet and another planet. And when you're done, when you graduate, if you graduate, I don't know that it's a guarantee that you graduate, but if you graduate, then you become one of the former graduates, one of the 144,000, and you teach the next soul that goes through the process. You're one of the ones to teach that new soul. And meanwhile, the one with the most seniority of the 144,000 that helped you, they go on to the first grade. They go up the ladder to another place to learn something else. Meanwhile, we are in kindergarten. And the purpose of kindergarten is to learn how to get along with each other, to learn how to love and communicate with each other. And that's all this is about, is love and communication. The late Dr. Gene Scott believed in Jesus and was a Christian, and he believed so because of the resurrection. I believe in the graduation process because of the seed movement. The seed movement that happened when I was exactly beginning my last day of being 33 1/3 years old in 78. That happened on the 22nd day of the 7th month, 22/7. Born on the 23rd day of the 3rd month in 45, 23/3, the first book of the Bible, Genesis. There is no 3:23 in Genesis, but there is a 23:3, and in that first book, that 23:3 is about Abraham talking about the loss of his greatest love, Sarah, and he's asking where he can bury her. That's the first book of the Bible, and it reflects my date of birth, a loss of a great love, his greatest love. And the seed movement date, the 22/7, in the last book of the Bible, Revelation, the last chapter, the 22nd chapter, in the 7th verse, it's Jesus telling the disciples about his second coming, about him returning, the return of the greatest love. So one's about a loss of a great love, the other is about the return of the greatest love. And those seeds that nobody, until somebody can replicate what happened and show it to me, if they can replicate the seed movement, maybe I'll change everything I believe, but until someone can actually cause the seeds to do what they did in front of me and 3 other people, the I, the M, the W, and the arrow, I am Omega Truth, I am last truth. Until they can replicate that, you can talk blue in the sky. It's not gonna move me. It's not gonna change my beliefs. I have to see someone do it. And the only one that I think can do it are aliens, the ones that did it in the first place. Now, the discovery of the Roswell incident, the reason I believe it's aliens. When I told my acquaintance, a roommate back in Venice Beach, when I told him about the picture of Jesus that I heard on the radio the day after I thought it was Jesus in May 25th of 79, on the next day when I heard that story on KFWB News, the tail end of the story about a picture of Jesus bleeding real blood and stopping bleeding, but I didn't catch the name of the place where it happened. Well, when I told him that story, he said to write the National Enquirer, which I mentioned this before, and I did. And that's when I found out about the Roswell incident, because the article they sent me in the August of '79 National Enquirer said on May 25th of '79, the day I thought I was Jesus, a picture of Christ bled real blood in Roswell, New Mexico, and it stopped bleeding on that day. Roswell, New Mexico. When I told him that, he told me, well, that's where the Roswell incident happened, and this is in '83. He told me about this, and in '83, I don't think the Roswell incident was common knowledge among most of the people I knew. I had never heard of it before, and I didn't know anybody except this person that I had recently met that was my roommate that lived in that house. That's the first person that ever told me about the Roswell incident, and he told me to get a book called The Roswell Incident, and I checked it out and discovered that the accident, or the crash, happened on the second day of the 7th month, 27 and 47, and my birthday of 3231945 is a 27. And by the way, in 47 it happened, and 32 years to 47, you add 32 to 47, you get 79, the date of the other Roswell incident, the picture of Jesus bleeding real blood, and Christ adds up to 32. And if you put Christ reduced, 3 and 2 is 5, the fifth letter, E, put that in the middle of Roswell, and you got Rosewell, like in Rising Again. Again, it all connects to Roswell and aliens. And I think those aliens they were called Greys, or EBEs, extraterrestrial biological entities. And you know, for the ones that know about who believe in it being aliens, the government, of course, does not admit it. But that year, 47, in the summer, was also the same time the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered, and I think that the aliens were ones that planted the scrolls there. They wanted them to be discovered at that time, and that crash may have been intentional. It may have been part of the plan, just so I could point this out now, and that they didn't use those extraterrestrial biological entities. I think they were androids, that they didn't have souls. They were obviously not of this earth, but they did not have souls. They were androids that were controlled by the people that started the graduation process, the other aliens. And the other aliens, I'm going to show you why I believe they are from the Pleiades. There's a real good reason why I think they're from the Pleiades. They call them Pleiadians, but the Pleiades is a star cluster 400 light years away, and they call it the Seven Sisters. That's why 7 is a prominent number in the Bible, and Jesus Christ adds up to 43, which is a 7, and there's about 1,400 stars, even though they're called the Seven Sisters. There's about 1,400 stars in the Pleiades, and there are planets in the Pleiades. Now, one other thing, a couple other things, before I show you why I think it's the Pleiades. If it turns out that that picture of Christ that bled real blood in Roswell on May 25th of '79, if it turns out that people caused that it was a setup, that it was not real, it was a sham, that they did this to promote Jesus, or they did this to promote their church, or whatever. If it turns out that is what happened, and it never has been shown to be the case, but it could still turn out to be that case once people hear about this, they're not going to want to admit that aliens had anything to do with it. So that if it was people that did it, were behind it, they will come clean and they will admit to it. But even if they do, the only thing that I can think about that would be I had nothing to do with that. It would be a mighty big coincidence. The only thing I can think of it is that maybe the aliens put the thought in their heads because they wanted me to still point this out. If that's what it turns out to be, if people did that instead of real blood bleeding from a picture. But I do believe the aliens could actually cause that. They did the seed movement. There's no reason why they couldn't cause blood to come from a picture. Now, the reason I think it's the Pleiades. Remember I mentioned that Hebrew is read right to left in the opposite direction of English, and a lot of this has to do with Hebrew. The Pleiades, backwards. C-D-I-E-L-P. Seed, like in the seed movement, C-D-I-E, and I was 33 1/3 years old. C-D-I-E-L-P. Pleiades, backwards, is C-D-I-E-L-P, or C, father, da, dad, da, from a child, da, from a baby. C-D-I-E-E, Christ reduced, L-P, 33 1/3, or C-D-I-E-L-P. But it's C-D-I-E-L-P, and it was a seed movement when I was 33 1/3 years old. So that's too much of a coincidence for me to not believe that this whole thing originated with the Pleiadians from the Pleiades. And one other thing to determine whether you're a former graduate or not, it's real simple. You're a former graduate if you have love in your heart, if you have real love in your heart, if you know the difference between right and wrong and try to do right and have a conscience, then you are a former graduate. So you know inside whether you're a former graduate or not. Unfortunately, I think there's only 144,000 people on this planet that have that love in their heart. I'm going to leave my beliefs. It's a 2-page thing. If Jerry will let me just leave this out there, so you can help yourself to it. It's free. It's got a picture of the Pleiades on here, by the way. Got off the internet. And if you look at it real close, I added a little thing out in it just for the heck of it. It's just kind of funny, but you're welcome to it. It's free, and I'll put it out there next to the donation box. And if you want to help this place stay alive, just put some money in the donation box and take these for free.